Welcome everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I have a mixed media project that I've created using some new Holtz Idea-ology. There are so many fun things to use for your creations. I had a hard time deciding, and this is where I landed with my project. For my base, I'm using a small Etcetera tag. There's many sizes, but I chose the small for this project since it'll fit my papers just perfectly. And for my papers that I'm going to be putting on the background, these are the Backdrops Volume 5, and I love some of the florals that are in here. And this is the sheet I've chosen for this project. I'm going to be doing this in a horizontal tag rather than a vertical like I usually do. I thought I would just shake it up a little bit, plus the elements that I'll be using on top will go really great in a horizontal format. So to glue this down, I'm using Collage Medium, and this is a matte finish, and I'll be using one of the Holtz Distress paintbrushes to glue everything down. To start off, I'm going to grab a generous amount of the Collage Medium, and I'm going to spread this all over the front of my tag. Next, I'll place my paper down, and since this paper can go either vertically or horizontal, I thought it was a really good choice for this. So I'm going to press this down really well just with my fingers and make sure I have it lined on the top and the bottom. And then I'll go back over with some more Collage Medium and make sure that I have everything spread out really nicely. While my background is drying, I'm going to start creating some of the pieces that'll go on top. And for this, I'm going to be using the layer frames. I've chosen a large one. Also the Layers photo booth and the Poses paper dolls. So using one of the Montage frames, I've chosen that large one, and also the paper dolls that has the three ladies. I'll be using my Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, and I'm just adding a line of glue. And I'll glue these ladies where their feet will just be at the bottom of that frame. And before I add my backing to this frame, I'm going to be using the Simon Says Stamp foam tape roll, and I'll be adding this to all four edges. I'll also add a little bit to the back side of the ladies so that this can sit up from that backing. And now I can just remove that backing and place the frame on top of that photo booth backdrop. Next, I'm using the large collage strips, and these have many ways that you can use them. But I found this cute little pup, and I thought this would be adorable inside the Optic frame. I've centered the pup inside the Optic frame, and I'm just going to use my pencil and draw around the edge. And then using my scissors, I'm going to cut around that circle, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a frame so I can glue this in place. And just to make sure that my pencil line doesn't show, I'm going to erase around that. And then I can use my Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue around the channel of the frame, and then I can place my pup inside. I want to make sure that he's kind of offset to where that optical handle goes off to the right. Now that my paper is completely dry on my tag, I'm just going to use my scissors, and I'm going to trim off some of the excess paper from around the edges. And I always like to use a sanding block and complete trimming that paper down just by sanding it off. One of my favorite items from Idea-ology are these collage paper archives. These are a really nice printed tissue, and you can collage them onto your projects. I'm going to be tearing this one apart just to clear off some of those sharp edges to give me more of a distressed look. And I'll dip back into my collage medium and make sure I've spread out enough to cover where the paper's going to go. And I can lay that down, and I want to make sure that my script is going perfectly horizontal, and then I can press that down. Once my paper's in place, I'll go back over with some more collage medium and seal up all the edges. And then I'll use the rest of the paper towards the bottom of my project. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of texture, and for that I'm using the Crackle paste, and this is Opaque. And I've also chosen the Holtz DOILY Stencil. This has a really nice fine pattern to it. And to apply this, I'll be using a craft knife, and I always like to use the back side of the craft knife. I'm going to add my paste and make it kind of irregular looking. I don't want to have a straight line where that stencil ends. And I'll do the same to the right side of my project. Once my crackle paste has cracked and dried, I'm just rubbing on with some of my mini cubes, and I have walnut stain, peeled paint, and tattered rose, and I'm just going to let those sit right into that paste. I can blend these around using my finger or a dry paintbrush, but I really don't want to dilute the color any more than what it is. So I really thought these colors went well with that background, and it ends up looking like some trees up in the upper right. I am going to utilize the hole from the tag, so I'm going to start off with my craft knife and punch a hole and pull that excess paper out. And then I can sand off some of the paper using an emery board. And then I'll use my mini cube of walnut stain, and I'm just going to stain that paper a little bit more and then rub it in and blend it around. I'm ready to start adding on some of the elements that I've chosen for this, and I do have a house that I've picked out from the paper dolls, and for this I'll be using my collage medium once again. I have a little bit smaller brush this time, and I'm going to apply this just to the back of the house. Using the collage medium gives me a chance to arrange this in just the right order, then I can press it down in place. I'll do the same to my framed ladies, and I want to make sure that I get all those edges and corners covered with the collage medium. And then I can press this down in place, and it's starting to take shape. I want to do some grounding, and what I mean by this is I'm going to anchor that house to where it has something to sit on. And so I've used some collage medium on the back of a paper strip, and I'll just set that right under the house. Next, I have the car, and I've added a double layer of some foam tape, and I'll be setting this right on top to where it goes above the words that I've added, try new things, and I'll press this down in place. I've also made sure I have a piece of foam tape behind this window, because this is where my little pup is going to sit as the driver of this car, so I'll add some collage medium to the back of that optic frame and my pup picture, and now I can set him right on top. Next, I'm using the Salvaged hearts, and I've glued this to a piece of paper. I'll be painting this with some tattered rose paint, and to paint the top of this, I'm going to just be using a baby wipe that I've had sitting out for a while, so it's not too terribly wet with water, and it's a really great applicator to get an uneven surface. And then you can go in with a small paintbrush and get around the edge and some of those small areas of the heart. At this point, I'm going to experiment by using some translucent grit paste and adding it to the heart, and I'm just going to use my palette knife just to spread it on unevenly down towards the bottom. And once that's dried, I'm going to squirt this a little bit with some Scorched Timber Distress Spray and blot that off a bit with my paper towel. Before it dried completely, I figured out that I can move this around a little bit and to lighten the brown color. And to finish the heart off, I'm going to be using the Sterling Foundry Wax, and I have my glass mat here. I'm just going to squirt out a little bit of the foundry wax, and then I can use my finger and start applying it to areas of the heart. And to get that really awesome shine of the foundry wax, I'm going to hit this with my heat tool on the embossing setting. And finally, I've added some collage medium to the back of my heart, and I have a little bit of time to make sure that I can arrange this just how I like it. I hope you've enjoyed this mixed media project that I made using the new Tim Holtz Idea-ology products. You don't have to always do difficult techniques to create a stunning look. I love Idea-ology how it is, and especially the paper dolls being in black and white. I do have all my supplies listed in the description box below, along with a link to our blog post for more information. And as always, thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up. and subscribe to see more great content.